Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of Daylightcast. Today with me I have Flare2V,
Hey, what's up?
Otofu,
Yo.
and Ryudi.
Hello.
We are going to talk about the Trapper today and then go into a smaller topic of the ranking system and what you could change about the ranking system to maybe change how pips are acquired to make the game a lot more fun for everybody involved. We're gonna go straight ahead into our first topic and the main topic of today's episode, which is the Trapper. The Trapper's power is the Bear Trap, which he starts off by default with 1. The rest of the bear traps are scattered around the map, and he can set the bear trap. Any survivor that steps into a bear trap is primarily incapacitated and cannot move. They can attempt to struggle to escape the bear trap, and they will leave if no other add-ons are applied injured, and if they were already injured, they will be put into the dying state. I just get small feedback about the power on a scale of 1 to 10. How good would you say is the power? So, speak up. Whoever wants to go first.
I don't know. I personally don't like powers like this because I'm not one of to play a passive killer where you waste time setting up traps. I think it can be strong for map control, but at the same time, I think killer is all about time efficiency. And I think taking the time to set up traps, and then sometimes those traps don't even work. If you set them in places that are predictable, people will disarm them. Sometimes you place them in places that aren't predictable, and then people don't even run there at all. So I think it can be really strong, but I think it's super hit or miss. It's not consistent enough for me. I personally don't like it a lot. I would if I was gonna give it a 1 out of 10 score, I'd probably give it a 4. But I'm sure some other people might disagree. But that's just my thought.
Yeah, it's kind of agree with you there. I think the passive playstyle of Trapper is kind of hit or miss. He's kind of similar to Hag in the sense that he also places traps, but I feel like Hag's traps just get a lot more. They're a lot more interactive than Trapper's traps, especially when you just put them in open places. They just get disarmed, or people see them and don't run into them.
Yeah, and they have a bigger radius too. Whereas the Trapper one, you could set a Trapper's trap in a tight hallway, and if you place it just wrong, they can squeeze to the side of it and go right past it. You can't do that with Hag's traps.
I'm not sure whether I'd give it as a rating. The Trapper's concept's kind of interesting, whereas other killers, such as Hillbilly or Wraith, in order to make an area of the map unsafe, they have to break pallets there to create a dead zone. The Trapper can create dead zones just by placing bear traps on certain choke points, like windows or pallets, and he can effectively deny the use of those before survivors have even touched it. I think the biggest problem is, as a survivor, you have a lot more vision than the Trapper. You've got the third-person perspective. You've got the heartbeat cue when he's coming near. So basically, you've got a lot more vision. So it's really easy to find the Trapper, and it's really easy to see his traps. And then from there, disarming them is just such a time sink for the Trapper. He has to go and pick up the bear trap. He has to go and place the bear trap. That takes a lot of time because it lets all of the survivors do whatever they want with no pressure whatsoever if you aren't placing the trap near a survivor. And then it takes a survivor to disarm the trap. It's only a second now, right? It's only 1 or 2 seconds. So the killer's spending 30 or more seconds of his time setting up this trap and then going back to patrol. And the survivor takes 2 seconds to disarm it. So yeah, it's definitely a time efficiency thing. The whole concept is kind of interesting. Being able to deny areas of the map. But as mentioned before, it's hit or miss. If you don't set up a whole bunch of traps in one area, there's a lot of ways to go in and out of most tiles. So you could have, say, an outwall tile with 2 pallets, and they only drop the 1 pallet, they kick that, and then they get away. And they don't even touch the other pallet. Maybe that's where you put the bear trap. Or you've got a window, and you've trapped the window, but they don't use the window. They just use a pallet nearby. So it's definitely a hit or miss play style, and it's kind of fun. It's kind of a fun alternative every once in a while. because he can ramp up really fast. If you get two people stepping in bear traps like back to back, the game could be over just like that. But yeah, high risk, high reward. It's interesting. It's not the worst design in the game, but I don't know. It's all right. It's definitely passive, but
Yeah, I think his biggest issue is just how slow paced he is. At least for me, like it takes so fucking long to actually get everything set up, and by the time you have 3 or 4 traps set up, they're already popping that 3rd, 4th gen, and but it's basically GG from that point.
I think Trapper is he's pretty decent in lower ranks. He's definitely not a bad choice when you're just starting out the game, but especially in the red ranks and probably up there at rank 1, he's just definitely one of the worst killers you could possibly pick.
I mean, low ranks are also predictable, so it's easy to trap them.
Yeah, exactly.
High rank survivors, they just... For example, I don't even use the shack window against a trapper if I don't know if there's a trap or not. You wouldn't just take that risk.
Sometimes that's the only trap they set.
Yeah, it's the meta spot to trap the shack window.
I do also agree though that higher ranks you got to be more time efficient, which I think the time efficiency of Trapper is just negative. It's nothing.
As soon as they disarm that trap, you've wasted a generator worth of time.
Yeah, which is huge.
Also, and you can't have a survivor see where you're putting the trap either, because then just disarm it right behind your back.
Yeah, if you disarm far away from them, they're gonna do generators all the time. If you set up far away from them, if you set up close to them, then they're gonna see where you set up and disarm. Either way, you're either wasting time, either way you're wasting time, and you just have to get lucky basically and hope they step in it.
Yeah, it's for example with Hag. If a Hag traps a pellet loop during a chase, the survivor cannot do anything unless they have a flashlight, because the Hag traps are, you either trigger them or you crouch walk through them. You can't disarm them unless you have a flashlight. And with the Trapper, he has so many counters to his power. You can disarm the traps, you can destroy the traps, you can cause a Trapper to not have a power anymore. There's a small game, which lets you see traps. There's slippery meat, which lets you escape traps faster. There's, I think it's up the ante, because escaping a trap is luck-based. So
it's
offerings,
15%, I think.
Yeah, so offerings that increase luck and perks that increase luck also help you struggle out of the trapper's trap faster. So yeah, I think he has a lot of counters just to his power, which I think kind of seems unfair. I think it would be really... I think what he would need... They already gave him a huge buff by cutting all of his animations that involved the traps down by half.
So good.
Yeah, that was amazing when they did that. But I think they just need to make some changes, how the whole disarming thing and destroying the traps, even though destroying the traps doesn't really happen anymore. But maybe they should up the time it takes to disarm traps anymore, or give them some sort of interaction where you need an item, they place the item to disarm the trap and then afterwards they pull the item out again to disarm the trap.
One thing that was mentioned earlier was the counterplay around him, where you kind of watch the trapper place the traps, follow him around, and then disarm them. See, I think I kind of like the whole interactive playstyle where you're forced to run towards the killer in order to have an advantage. Cool. I think that's a really cool one. Probably one of the best aspects of this game design is the best way to avoid stepping in a bear trap is to follow the trapper around and make sure he doesn't place any. So you can force him into a chase by revealing yourself, letting him chase you. Or if he decides to just run around and continue placing traps, you can follow him around and disarm those traps, or call them out to your teammates to disarm.
That's kind of an interesting point in itself, because that almost seems like direct counterplay. If you just follow the trapper around and basically make it so you can't set any traps, then he basically just turns into a wraith that can't cloak. All he can do is chase you around until he catches you eventually. He doesn't have any time to set up traps, He can't really use his ability at all until he catches you.
You don't even need to follow him around. You can just watch him with object.
Yeah, objective
Yeah.
obsession is like the destruction, the death of Trapper.
Yeah, that too.
One interesting proposal for changing how the Trapper plays out is maybe restrict how he can place the bear traps, but also set it up in some way that survivors can't disable the bear trap. So that way, him placing a trap has an impact for the rest of the game, where you need to remember where the trap is, and then that area is denied. So if you were to block off a window, then that window is blocked, and you would have to remember that you can't use that window or step in the trap. It would kind of solve the time efficiency issue of, because when you're playing Trapper and you're setting up bear traps at the beginning of the game, which is something maybe you shouldn't be doing anyways, but if you were anyways, any traps you place, it takes a lot of time to place them. Survivors disarming them, your time is wasted, and you've effectively forfeit the game at that point. So I think it would solve that issue where people can just disarm your trap, and then your game is done.
So you're saying that he should only be allowed to place traps at like pallets or windows, but they can't be disarmed.
Just prevent the Trapper from completely blocking off an area. So if don't let him like place so many traps on the stairs that it's impossible to leave the basement without stepping in a trap, or just something to that effect. Don't let him place enough traps around to hook survivor that you can't actually get in and unhook the survivor, kind of deal.
Yeah,
That's already a thing, isn't it?
I think so, yeah, because you can't
There's, like,
put traps so close to each other. So like,
Yeah.
I think no matter what, you'll have like some sort of a lane that you can run in. Which I think is like, I think as long as they can't put traps under the hooks anymore, which they can. And I think that's good enough. I think they could totally make the traps not even possible to be disarmed at all, and it probably wouldn't even be that big of a deal, you know?
Yeah, I think that would be an interesting thing to see. Another possibility is survivors would be able to step in the bear trap to disarm it if they escape or have someone let them out. But then again, you've got two people running around disarming bear traps now. So as far as efficiency is concerned, you've got two people that aren't working generators, and they're injuring themselves. So it's a time sink for the survivors as well.
Well, so basically, if that was a thing, though, what I just thought about, say if like a trapper took someone to like the ironworks basement and then just trapped the top of the stairs and left, you would basically need two survivors to go. One of them to step in the bear trap, the other one to like free him, and then go down and save the guy off the hook. Because that's where it starts to be like a little crazy, you know?
Yeah, definitely. He has a lot of control. But because you can kind of call out the traps or falling around in the first place, it might not be such an issue. And I think I don't know. I think that would be interesting. Another one last thing, quality of life change. If a trap's disarmed, or if a trap is shut, you can't just reach down and open it up again. You've got to pick it up, you've got to bend over and then place it again. You should just be able to press a button and reset the trap.
Sometimes you have a trap already in your hands, and you gotta place that one
trap.
Pick it up.
It's the fucking worst.
Honestly, when I play Survivor and I see trappers doing that, I feel it looks so goofy. Oh. Also, one thing I want to mention is I think one thing that kind of also was in addition to the trapper just becoming worse over time. Really, like very back in the day, one playstyle a lot of trapper used to do is they would hook a survivor, then trap under the hook. But back then, unhooking survivors wasn't cancelled by the traps, so you'd 1-for-1.
I really like that. I like that you can buffer traps too.
I think that was a really cool playstyle for the trapper because he'd force a 1v1. But I don't know, man. I think that was really cool.
Yeah, I used to trap under hooks and then just leave because they would pull them off into it and you would just get 1,000 points for it. I used to do that all the time. I'd trap the hook and then just walk away and then get 1,000 points for it. I used to do that all the time.
But like,
I think,
then
I would honestly prefer if it came back, buffering traps. Like, especially if you had situations where you can buffer the trap with the 3 people and no one would get trapped. And I think that was really cool because it took 3 people off of generators.
Yeah, and it was good teamwork. Like, I think anything that promotes good teamwork like that, like every time that would happen, that's good working together. Like I feel like that should be rewarded, being able to organize that and get 3 people together and help each other out. I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
No.
See, I get where you're coming from. allow me to play the devil's advocate and say that if the trapper is sitting, he's patrolling around the hook, and you try to do something like that with one person, the person being unhooked, if they get hit, they can't buffer the trap, and that's 2 people down. But I like the idea of being able to hold open the bear traps with your team, because it encourages more interaction between survivors and the killer. If maybe it would feel bad if you were to have someone hold open the bear trap and then someone just walks right over it, no problem. But then you've got all these people around you that you can, hit and slow down. And I like if that were to return as a mechanic, being able to hold open bear traps but not disarm them. I think that would actually allow for a lot of interesting play.
So you just can't disarm them anymore, but you can hold them open.
Yeah, something like that.
That'd be kind of cool.
So like would that be like a different button altogether, or was that just a new mechanic instead of disarming traps completely? Like you couldn't disarm traps at all anymore?
Yeah, just brainstorming.
That would be, honestly, I would like that a lot.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I
So
would like
then
both.
you can coordinate shit. Like if you were wanted to vault the shack out, call your buddy over and be like, hey, hold this trap open while I vault. Maybe they take a hit and they swap. I don't know.
I think the only problem would arise where like the trapper wants to walk through the bear trap, but he can't, and then the survivors
Yeah.
can, and that acts as a wall. So I don't know. There definitely have to be tweaks to prevent stuff like that from happening. I like the idea of the trapper stepping in the bear trap, but I think he should also have some form of immunity to bear traps that he can use, so that way he can actually walk over them and they don't act as solid objects at times.
What if
There used to be a thing where you could lunge over it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what
yeah,
if
something
you could lunge over it? Like you
I
can
think
you
that-
can walk through it, you get trapped, but if you lunge over it, he like steps over it. Well, is that all we have to say about the power, or
I mean, yeah. We don't want to do next add-ons.
yeah? I think he's pretty well designed, honestly.
Yeah, I think he's like pretty fair. He's definitely a fair
Yeah,
killer.
he's a fair killer.
It's hit or miss. It's like high risk, high reward. If things go well, he could be a beast. If it goes bad, he looks like an idiot. And I don't know. I think it's all overall pretty balanced.
Yeah. I also think.
Definitely one of the cooler looking killers as well.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah,
He's
like
so
aesthetically.
badass.
Oh yeah, he's a fucking badass. He was definitely the first person I perceived through. He was so cool looking.
Visual design on point.
Hell yeah, 10 out of 10.
You can tell he was kind of the whole time investment with placing bear traps was definitely designed around lower level play where people are afraid to work generators. You know, at the lower ranks, he works so well because you don't have to necessarily outplay or outsmart someone in a chase. They just have to step in your trap. So it's good for newer killers that don't know how to chase yet. And then the time efficiency problem doesn't really exist at low ranks because they're not working generators right away. You've got survivors crouching, hiding, etc., etc. So
Yeah, that's also what I wanted to mention. I think he's definitely one of the, if not the best killers to start out with when you start the game. Because of what Flair just mentioned, he works really well in low ranks. He's not very difficult. And I think he kind of teaches map layouts. He teaches killers what parts of the map are important. Because of the trap placement. If you play a lot of Trapper, you slowly start to learn which places are important to trap, and that can kind of be applied to other killers. Also, the fact that I think he kind of teaches killers how to chase because he doesn't really have, like with the Hillbilly, the Hillbilly can like have this playstyle where you just walk up to people until you can put your dick on their shoulder and then you just chainsaw them. Or like the Nurse has like an entirely different kind of chase than any other killer. So I think like Trapper's chase style is as simple as it gets, just like run at people. So that's not really anything overwhelming for newer players.
I mean, in general, you kind of want to be herding survivors towards your traps, which is a little bit different from something like Wraith.
Yes.
Where
but that's like more like an advanced tactic, I think.
Yeah. I feel
that's something you learn when you become better at the killer, not like when you start out.
Yeah, I feel like for a brand new killer, it's pretty basic and straightforward. They're just gonna pretty much learn the very basics of chasing. You don't do anything crazy. All you gotta do is just chase them down and find a way to get hits however you can.
Also,
Mhm.
speaking of new players, Trapper has 2 of the best killer perks in the game, which we're gonna go over right now, because the Trapper's Teachable are the first one, unlocked at level 30, Unnerving Presence. Your presence alone instills great fear. Survivors within your terror radius have a 3, 5, 8% chance of triggering skill checks when repairing, healing, or sabotaging. Triggered skill check success zones are reduced by 5, 10, 15%. That perk's getting buffed. It's pretty obvious that perk's pretty garbage. So I hope they're buffing it pretty well.
It's such a shame too, because it has such cool it has cool synergy with other perks. Like imagine that with like Hex Ruin or even
Or
like
distressing.
or Distressing or Huntress's Lullaby. Like there's so many things you could do it with, but the numbers are just so shit. Like I'm kind of happy that they're buffing it, because what is it at tier 3? It's like 8% higher chance for skill
Yeah.
checks.
It's an
That
8%
helps.
higher
It can
chance.
help,
Yeah, it helps survivors.
Yeah, but I mean, it could hurt survivors if you
It could
have
hurt
perks like
new
Hex Ruin.
survivors, but it definitely only helps like decent survivors.
No, I'm saying if you have Hex Ruin or something, it would help against good
yeah.
survivors. Like I think if you counter it with like good perks, or even maybe on Doctor where his skill checks go all over the place.
Oh yeah.
Like I feel like if you stack it with certain other things, but the 8%'s like nothing. If that 8% was like 20% or something, then I'd be like, all right, that's a good perk.
If it like change how it works at all, maybe change it so the perk like literally bombards players with skill checks.
I think having like the Doctor kind of like all over the screen skill checks, or like maybe they go in reverse. I don't know.
Reverse skill checks
Reverse
would be fucking
hole.
sweet.
That'd
That'd
be
be
so
sweet. Yeah, I never even thought of that.
Maybe even both. Just have it in like the corner of your screen going in reverse. That'd fuck someone up.
Make the
Maybe,
circle like smaller or something. Dude, you can do all kinds of.
Oh my
make
God.
the circle smaller and like remove the great skill check part, so they can only hit the normal skill checks.
You could have the needle be invisible for the first part of the skill check. It only appears like when it's on the actual success zone.
Oh my.
God.
You'd have to time it. The timing's consistent, you'd be able to work around it, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
definitely take practice.
Or maybe
Yeah.
the greats at the very end instead of the beginning.
That like
There's
only makes
so many
hitting,
things.
That makes hitting great skill checks easier though, I think.
it would, yeah. There could
Good.
be a gap though between the great success zone and the good success zone. So if you
Yeah.
miss the great, then you're gonna blow up the gen. I don't know. It's definitely, to piggyback off of what Tofu said. It's you can't necessarily use the increased number of skill checks to a good extent, because 8% is just too low, and then
Yep.
the size of the success zone isn't changed enough for it to be actually difficult to hit. Like,
It's
I don't think
15%.
anyone who's trying to hit, what is it, 50% or 15?
15% at rank 1.
15%.
Rank 3, I mean. Sorry.
So it's yeah. Well, I mean, rank 3 is just generally that's the rank you want to bounce around, right? But it's I don't think anyone has ever had issue hitting a good skill check.
No.
No.
If you want to hit the skill check in good, it's unbelievably easy. The thing that's difficult is hitting great skill checks.
It's
So
usually an
reducing
accident.
this,
Oh yeah.
yeah, definitely. But like, if you
Like,
were to try to
you-
just hit the good skill check, you wouldn't have any issue with that.
You-
So
you miss
reducing
good-
that by 15%, it ultimately has no effect really.
You
It
miss
doesn't
good-
even. I don't believe the 15% affects the great skill check area either.
It doesn't. It's the same size.
Yeah, it's just a normal. I mean, you
Yeah, I
only
feel like-
really miss good skill checks when you're scratching your nose or something.
Yeah, or if you're just like trying to get perfect or great skill checks every single time and you happen to miss it by like half an inch or something,
Yeah. I mean, alright, next perk. Brutal Strength at level 35. Your great strength allows you to shred through your prey's defenses. Destroy drop barricades 20, 30, 40% faster. I think we all know what we're gonna say about Brutal Strength.
I mean,
That it sucks. That you need it.
it's garbage.
No, I mean it sucks that you need it.
Oh, I thought you
Oh,
meant-
yeah, yeah, I thought you were memeing. No,
No,
that
I
really
actually
like
does
garbage
suck,
perk.
yeah. I mean, I think it should be said that that's a big reason why he's good for beginner killers is because
Yes.
it's such an amazing perk to have, and I think it's probably like the go-to, especially as like a newer killer where like a lot of the time it's not even about mind gaming, it's just about doing things faster. Brutal Strength makes
Yeah.
everything a lot faster, which
Break
makes it
every ballot.
Yeah,
That's what
exactly.
that's what I mentioned in like last episode. Like the best killer perks we have, Enduring and Brutal Strength and Agitation, are like just stat boost perks that make you do things faster.
Yeah,
They're also
yeah,
straight chase perks.
exactly.
It's like, oh,
And,
jeez, man.
They did actually say that they were changing it though to make. I mean, I don't know if this will make much of a difference. I still feel like Brutal Strength will still be like a good go-to. They said that they were going to make like regular pallet breaks faster, and then like nerf Brutal Strength a little bit. Like I'm sure it'll probably be the same overall, but Brutal Strength will be slightly weaker, and default will be like a little bit faster, so you might not need it.
I mean, we
But-
have the exact numbers because
Yeah,
right now,
isn't it-
if you
It's-
don't have Brutal Strength, breaking a pallet takes 3 seconds, and they're going to increase that by 15%, which means it's going to be 2.6 seconds. So you basically have like Brutal Strength 0.8.
Well, yeah, because like Brutal Strength 1 is 20%, right?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, it'll be a little bit. Like, and I don't think that's enough though. Like.
It could be depending on the killer.
Yeah, I think depending on the killer, yeah. I just feel like I'm still gonna end up running Brutal Strength to be
Yeah,
honest.
same.
Like on Billy,
will
I might not
too,
need it.
probably.
On Trapper, maybe not so much.
Might consider
it
taking
definitely
him off
depends
of
on the
Hillbilly.
killer.
I don't know yet. Might like swap out Brutal Strength for Nurse's Calling on my Hillbilly. I don't know yet.
Yeah, maybe Huntress too. I might take it on.
Oh, I don't run it on Huntress already.
Oh, you don't?
No, I think my Huntress build is Deerstalker, Nurse's Calling, Rune, and Fanat. And
Dirty
I
slugger.
man,
You dirty slugger.
I don't even pick up people who use DS. I just slug them all game.
That's toxic.
That's I'm a toxic piece of shit killer. I mean, that's like
what
the
you-
worst.
what
That's
you
the
gotta
worst.
do, right?
That's the worst thing you gotta do. You can do like to DS users. Like they're anticipating that you're picking them up, and if you never pick them up, that's the biggest cuck you can do.
That's the counterplay, man. If they got the obsession, just leave them on the ground.
Yeah, man. And like that's one person that's not doing a generator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then you end up having them be the last person alive. Pick them up, they get the hatch.
I mean, yeah, but I don't really care about that.
I was
Like
gonna mention.
if I was like the kind of person to play for double pips every game, I'd probably not do what I do, but I'd like just care about playing the game and having fun. So you know.
I mean, now that Enduring works against it, it's not too
Yeah.
bad.
I personally don't mind DS ever, to be honest. Like it gets rid of like a perk
Yeah.
completely, and especially if you're running Enduring, usually I catch them like unless there's like a pallet
Yeah.
really close by, you can usually just catch them immediately afterwards. The stun's like nothing.
It's usually a shitty palette they get to anyways. So
Yeah, it usually doesn't make the chase go very much longer, and it completely gets rid of one of their perks, which I'm
Oh, yeah.
cool with.
mhm.
I mean, on a kill that I have Enduring on, I probably won't slug a DS user. Oh well.
Well, there's your problem. You're not running Enduring on every single killer, including
Yeah.
Nurse.
Yeah.
You need that, man.
Enduring. and
Could you
Nurse.
imagine if Enduring would reduce the fatigue time on Nurse?
We're
I
not
don't
talking.
wanna
We're not
imagine
gonna talk
that.
about. We're not gonna talk
That
about
doesn't-
that.
Yeah,
We're
don't
not gonna-
get started.
No,
Don't
no,
get
no, no.
started on it, dude. Just
Let's-
don't do it.
All right, next perk. Agitation, exaggeration, aggravation. You get excited in anticipation of hooking your prey. Increases your speed while transporting bodies by 6, 12, 18%. While transporting a body, your terror radius is increased by 0, 3, 6 meters. It's a good perk.
Very good. Very good. The perk.
It's a
Very
good
good
perk.
perk again. I don't understand people who ever took Iron Grasp over agitation.
It's.
Okay.
It's. I mean.
It's a different
people-
playstyle.
Yeah.
They would look at Iron Grasp and they'd look at agitation back in the day as which carries farther, and that was like the deciding factor for which perk they'd take. So agitation was like it's 18%, and then you've got, oh my god, Iron Grasp was like what, 60%? What was the number
Yeah, it
on
was
that before?
60%.
Yeah, it was crazy.
60%.
60,
So-
then 36.
Yeah.
And now it's like what is it, like 8?
Wait, we gotta do the math actually. Because it takes 16 seconds to wiggle out. And the old Iron Grasp was 36%, right? So you divide 16.
Iron
by
Grasp
100.
V2.
What?
The original
Yeah,
was
it
like 60, right?
Was it?
I think.
Yeah. Let's take that.
Oh no, you
It
know what?
could-
I think they didn't change the time. They changed the wiggle.
Yeah, how much the wiggle affects you? They made it. They changed that.
It's
I think
it's not much anymore.
36.
Originally it was like 20 or 30% or something, and now it's like 70, 80%.
I mean, you basically don't sway left or right anymore when you carry someone
Yep.
with Iron Grasp.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
So it's definitely
It has a use, but it's...
I don't know.
I think it
The
has
old
a
Iron
use.
Grasp, even though you could carry people farther, wasn't necessarily better than Agitation, even when it was 60%, because you have to consider time. So people would look at how far they can carry someone, because the big issue back in the day that killers would have would be sabotaging. You know, they'd see all their hooks drop, and it's like, how am I going to hook this guy if I can't carry him forever? If I can't carry him the longest distance? So they look at the perk for the longest distance, and they pick the longest distance. But it's actually kind of counterproductive, because if you're carrying that person for longer, that means you're not applying pressure to the survivors for longer, and they can sabotage the rest of your hooks. So it's definitely a time thing. Whereas Agitation versus no carry perks, no survivor carrying perks, it takes the same amount of time. So if I were to carry a guy to a hook, or if I were to just walk in a straight line and have the survivor wiggle out, it's the same amount of time with Agitation versus without Agitation. Iron Grasp, wiggling out, takes so much longer. So it comes back to, like, I can carry people to hooks farther away with Agitation in the same amount of time versus Iron Grasp. If you're carrying someone for the full duration of Iron Grasp, that's going to take forever. And you're giving up hooks, you're giving up generators. So Agitation it's definitely, like, it has some utility in letting you carry people farther, but most importantly, it saves a hell of a lot of time.
Yeah, exactly. I think it all comes back to time efficiency. You know, like it's a time efficient way to play it. Whereas Iron Grasp, like, say if you had Iron Grasp 3 on, and you picked a dude up and you took him to a hook that you could have gotten to without Iron Grasp 1, that's a complete waste of a perk. You know, like that it did nothing for you. Like the way I always saw it is, if you ran Iron Grasp 3, I mean back when Iron Grasp 3 was good, you basically had to hook like everyone in the basement. Otherwise, it wasn't worth it, because like there was really no point. You know. Unless you're like that afraid of like body blocking survivors or something, which isn't that big of a deal anyway. So I don't know.
I love
Agitation
body
just
blocking
saves the
survivors.
time. Dude, same. I love it.
That was a thing, though. I mean, you take people to the basement and then just camp them, and then
You just pick
was how
both,
people
and
played.
you put everyone in the basement.
yeah,
I mean, honestly, I did understand why people ran Iron Grasp all the time in the first season, because Sabo was huge, and it was like pretty much every other game, probably even more than that. It was like 80% of the games you would just lose all your hooks, you know, and eventually you would have to carry everyone to the basement. So honestly, I didn't think it was that bad back then. But once Sabo got nerfed and then people were still running Iron, I just didn't understand it. I really didn't. Like, Agitation just gives you so much more utility. You know, you get there faster, so you can get back to pressuring the map faster. You can even catch up to people that are like trying to flashlight blind you and like fucking with you. You can catch up to them and down them while guys on your shoulder. You can do so much cool shit with Agitation, you know? Like stuff you can do with Iron Grasp.
You can beat people if they're racing you to like that basement pallet to drop that pallet to prevent from hooking someone in the basement. You can beat them with Agitation. They can't run ahead of you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And saving all that time, you know, like even then, I get why people were running Iron Grasp, but yeah, Agitation, if you're saving time, you're going to be able to pressure the survivors and stop them from sabotaging your hooks. So it's, yeah, I don't know, man. Iron Grasp's been overrated for a long time. I think it was, well, while not overpowered, I don't think it was fun, because it took away from being able to body block the killer and force him, you know, taking hits and stuff.
Like
that was really kind of removed. If the killer had Iron Grasp, there's no point in taking hits. He's going to make it to the hook anyways. And that guaranteed hooking, I think that's definitely, I don't think that's a fun thing to be experiencing. If you're on the killer's shoulders and he has Iron Grasp, you're like, oh God, I'm going to fucking die, right?
Yeah, like pretty much like no amount of teamwork can get you out of it. You're basically just fucked.
What if, that makes me think, what if they'd like buff Iron Grasp a little, so it's like decently good, but they'd also add a mechanic that when you carry someone and you swing, like no matter if you hit something or something, you swing, you like the wiggle bar progresses a little bit.
I mean, maybe if that was exclusive to Iron Grasp.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Exclusive to Iron Grasp. That's like the downside of the perk. When you hit people or like in general swing, the wiggle bar like progresses by 5%.
Agitation would still be better.
I agree. It would still be better.
I don't know what that
Just
would
a shower
accomplish.
It would be a nerf to Iron Grasp, not a buff.
Yeah, Iron Grasp as it is currently, I think it's in an alright spot.
It's kind of more just annoying for survivors to deal with, more so than anything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's like 2 seconds more of the wiggle bar.
Yeah, so it's like, oh, that hit you took no longer freed you. Instead, you get to the hook.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then that's basically it.
Yep. Alright, let's go into the add-ons and the different playstyles the add-ons can be used for. So, we have like the generic, this add-on makes you use your power faster, which are the Trapper Gloves for the common rarity, uncommon rarity trap setters, and then the setting tools for rare rarity. And then we like start going into the more, I think, more interesting add-ons. We have, for example, the ones that increase the setting time, but also make it more difficult to escape on your own and increase the time it takes to rescue people, which are the Strong Coil Spring for the common rarity. We have the Secondary Coil for the... Actually, never mind, the Secondary Coil just increases sabotage time, my bad. The 4-Coil Spring Kit for the uncommon rarity, and then we have the Fastening Tools for the rare rarity. So I get a little quick feedback about those add-ons, and like, would they ever be a good idea to use, or, you know, I think I'm just gonna state the obvious here and just say I don't think those add-ons are good because they make you waste even more time than you're already wasting to set the traps, and the bonus isn't like really that noticeable, because I think like 90% of the times a survivor gets trapped, you're gonna get to them and pick them up pretty quickly anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the big benefits to them too. I don't know if I'm mistaken here. I think those add-ons also make it so that the disarm time is longer, right?
There are definitely add-ons for that, yeah.
Yeah, but that doesn't really mean shit anymore because like
It's
like
still so fast.
yeah, like what is like 80% of 2.5? It's like nothing, you know. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I think those add-ons were good. Well, they weren't good, but they were like at least decent
Usable.
because of that, you know. Yeah, because you could stack them, you know, and then maybe put on like Trapper Gloves and Tinker or something if you're really that worried about it. You know what I mean? To save some time. I mean, yeah, it's not time efficient, but I mean, it did make your traps a little bit more like stable and in place. And then if they did jump in it, like it helps secure them a little more. But now that like the disarm time is lower, like I don't know. I don't really see a lot of use for it, honestly. I think it's pretty garbage now.
My favorite thing to do was to equip both of the disarm time traps, or not the disarm, the ones that increase your setting time. You know, you stack them so you have an incredibly long setting time, and then trap under the hook of survivors.
Oh my god!
my
People
God.
used to make me
Just
do
when you
that.
could one
A
for
little
one.
bit of BM in there.
Dude, when I used to do killer builds on my stream, people used to make me
I
do that all the
remember
time.
that.
It was
I
fucking
remember that.
dude. Every trap took like 5 whole seconds. It was fucking painful, dude.
And that was
Slow
with the old pickup and whatever time.
Yeah. Back when it took even longer by default too. Yeah.
Jesus. Alright, so I guess I'm moving on to the next add-on, which are for the common rarity, the Serrated Jaws and the Rusted Jaws in the rare common rarity, which the Serrated Jaws inflict heavy bleeding upon the trapped victim until healed, which basically means the frequency of you like losing drops of blood is higher. And then the Rusted Jaws make it so it takes moderately longer to heal survivors who are injured by the bear trap. Also, the Rusted Jaws slightly decrease the time it takes to sub a trap, but I don't think that's really major.
Mm-hmm. I don't think we touched on like the setting tools. Any tools that or any add-ons that like increase the speed at which you place traps are just by default good, because it saves a lot of time. You know, the time efficiency thing.
Yeah, I think that was just kind of naturally, so I didn't really go all that into it, but yeah.
Yeah. Regarding the jaws, the rusted jaws are pretty good. You know, even if the survivor manages to get into the bear trap, they've still got that debuff on them, so that does slow the survivors down a little bit. It's not massive, but it's definitely helpful. The jaws, the serrated ones, the ones that make the survivor bleed more. That's for anyone who isn't aware, it's effectively sloppy butcher once you've stepped into the bear trap. So it increases the bleeding frequency on the ground, not like the rate at which they bleed out once they're down. Just they're easier to follow. The blood tracks are easier to follow. And I guess they do have use. They're not completely useless, but definitely not like one of its better add-ons.
Yeah, I think serrated jaws are something I just throw on whenever I just want to throw in some random add-ons and not do anything too good, just to throw something on, Like they do help, Like if someone does step in a trap and they have like the sloppy butcher effect, it's way easier to track them. There's a gigantic blood trail that goes right to them. But yeah, I don't think they're huge. I mean, the rest of jaws are okay, but I don't think they're like a huge deal. They're just like mediocre, I think.
I think that one thing they could do to the rusted jaws is because if you think about it, the other killers who have add-ons like these are the hillbilly with the rusted chain and the hunters with the rusty head. Those killers can apply those debuffs a lot more and a lot more frequently because, I think we're gonna save that for another episode because the hunters can just tap you with that rusted head twice and you can forget ever healing that game.
Oh yeah, that's an issue right now.
That's a bug.
Yeah, that's a bug. That's not intended. Yeah,
I actually have a clip of me self-caring for 3 minutes with a medkit and self-care free.
It's a joke, man.
Yeah, it really is.
It's kind of funny because we had this issue in game before, but they brought it back. The exact same problem.
Yeah, I remember back whenever you could stack the yellow chains, and then if you did it enough to a survivor, if you did it enough to a survivor, they would work on a generator, and the generator would regress. Yeah, it would go back.
I remember that.
It was so funny, dude. So funny.
I tested it in a KYF with someone. That was hilarious.
You chainsaw a dude on the hook and stack it.
Oh, I remember.
Oh my god.
It probably still works with the hunters, to be honest. With the
please,
purple
no.
No.
Hey. All right, we can't upload this anymore.
Yeah, we gotta start over. I'm sorry.
Nah. They'll fix it. It'll be fixed. Don't worry.
What I wanted to say about the rusted jaws is I'd like them to actually, because getting debuff on survivors is a lot harder with the bear traps. I'd like them to actually buff the time, like the debuff, so it's not morally, but maybe like even considerably, or maybe even tremendously.
I agree because I think sorry, you can go ahead.
No, I think that, and also making it so that generators repair speed is also affected would be a nice buff. So kind of make it like a begrimed chains.
Is it begrimed or begrimed?
Begrimed. It's I think an interesting change to these add-ons in particular would be for both of them to apply the sloppy butcher effect, and then have one of them slow the healing, and then one of them slow the generator repair.
Oh yeah.
Cool. I still think the effect should be stronger though, because I think the point that Atro is trying to get at here is that with Billy and Hunters, you're kind of like in direct control of who you like you kind of, whereas like Trapper, they have to. It's a lot harder, you have to like shepherd them into your traps, and it doesn't always work, and it's like harder to apply the debuff. Whereas like with Billy and Hunters, you're in direct control. You can just get up on their ass and then fucking hit them, and then So I would like to see the actual debuff stronger. Yeah, I think that would be neat. It would make it
maybe
more
if they're not willing to buff the debuff strength, maybe give the debuff to people who disarm the traps too, because I don't know, maybe like scratch the blade and get a gash in there. You never know.
That would be kind of interesting. Like giving people debuffs that disarm. That'd be interesting, honestly.
I'd even had the consideration.
Small.
I had like a shower thought of having an add-on that makes it so when you disarm a trap, you get injured.
I mean, I don't know. I'd like to see the power reworked before the add-ons. Did they ever set it up so that like once you heal out of the injured state or whatever, your debuff goes away? Did that ever?
I'm actually not
sure. That's not the case for the Hunters.
For the Trapper though, if you were to step in the rusted trap and you healed up, is the debuff gone?
I mean, I'm on the wiki right now, and it says moderately increases the healing time of survivors injured by the bear trap, whereas the serrated jaws say until healed. Inflicts heavy bleeding upon the trapped victim until healed.
Okay.
So I'm not actually 100% sure on that one.
Yeah, seeing the heavy bleeding stay would be nice. I don't know why it should go away.
Alright. So the next add-ons are the add-ons that affect sabotaging the traps, which would be the Wax Brick, which moderately decreases the bear's sabotage skill check success zones. Then we have the Secondary Coil, which moderately increases the bear trap's sabotage time. Then, like, its bigger brother, the Oily Coil, which moderately increases the bear trap's sabotage time and slightly decreases the sabotage skill check success zone. And we have Big Papa, the Bloody Coil, which tremendously increases the bear trap's sabotage time, slightly increases the setting time of bear traps, and moderately decreases the sabotage skill check success zones.
Yeah.
These add-ons
pretty
fucking
accurate.
suck, dude. These add-ons are shit. Honestly, how many times do people actually like sabo your traps anymore? You know, it takes so fucking long that if people are saboing your traps, then that's good for you anyway because they're
Yeah.
wasting so much
It
time
used
doing
to
it.
be
Just
kind
don't place them. Just let them fucking sabotage your traps, and you're already slowing them down. It's time efficiency.
Yeah,
I feel
exactly.
like these add-ons only exist because Trapper was like the first killer, and they were like, "Oh man, this is like the killer. We gotta have some sort of counterplay."
I
And they're
mean,
like,
they were good when small game was basically an 8-meter radius.
"Oh yeah,
Yeah.
So back then, you know, you'd have someone trying to sabo your traps, and they'd basically be like, "This is taking way too fucking long. Never mind. I'm just gonna not bother."
And
Yeah.
back then
Yeah.
when like,
Now
what?
it's like, who cares?
does anyone
Um,
does anyone
traps.
remember, since we're on the topic of sabotaging, does anyone remember the Sabo Jake meme?
Oh yeah, Sabo
Wasn't-
Jake's a legend, dude.
Dude, I'm so sad when that meme
I
died.
met him the other day.
They called Iron Grasp Iron Guard.
Iron Vanguard, buddy, get it
Iron
right.
Vanguard. I'm sorry. Oh, good times, man. Now we have finger guns.
Finger guns, is shit, man. But that's my opinion.
That's just a theory.
There was a period of time,
Force
I think,
moves.
either it was the add-ons that increased sabotage time or Tinker or both, where I think it was if you used one of the add-ons that increases sabotage time and then you threw on Tinker, the boost from Tinker, it would actually make the sabotage bar like regress.
Oh
So
my
it was
God,
actually
that-
impossible to sabotage.
I remember that.
It just
Yeah,
wouldn't move. Yeah, you just couldn't do it. It wouldn't move.
you hit a great skill check and it would like go back after a few seconds.
I want to say for that period of time, those add-ons were potentially useful.
Oh yeah.
You just couldn't sabotage the traps. But
And I mean,
they're
if
kind of
I'm-
useless right now. It's the same as like the Serrated Jaws, where you just throw it on if you've got nothing else.
yeah, exactly.
That was
I'd like to
also
see
when you
people
could
everywhere.
sabotage them while they were still active.
Oh,
Oh
good.
God.
yeah,
Good
I
God.
forgot about that.
That used to be a thing.
That was a thing.
Right,
Well,
I think, are we
I
done
think
with
it's safe.
these?
Yeah, I think it's safe to assume that they're outdated and probably need to be like reworked in some way because they're pretty much useless now. They were useful like a year ago. They're shit now. They just need to be reworked. I think that's the end of it.
Alright,
Yeah.
on to my second favorite. Nah, actually, not my second favorite. I like these add-ons. We have, on the uncommon rarity, the Logwood Die, and on the rare rarity, the Tar Bottle. And both of these, respectively, darken the trap. So basically, for anyone that doesn't know, they just make it so the trap itself, the model, just darkens. It just becomes like a dark brown color with the Tar Bottle, essentially.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm just blind as shit, but I step in tar bottle traps all the time. I just can't see them. I don't know. On most maps, unless they're like on something like, say if you're like setting a trap on like ironworks inside the building where it's like white. If you're setting them on
Yeah.
like dirt, I'd step in them all the fucking time. I'd never see them. I might just be
Like-
blind though, but I don't know.
Or like
Nah, I
the
step
Reese
in 'em
Memorial
too.
Institute, where like everywhere is white.
Yeah, that too. Like aside from buildings like that, like if they're in the dirt, then I never ever see them. Honestly.
I played like multiple times against this guy called Magic Turtle, who always runs tar bottles.
Oh yeah.
Fucking, like, paired with the fact he always runs tar bottles and his trap placement is godlike. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he's pretty nasty.
Yeah, Turtle's a bastard, dude. He's a real bastard.
He's a godly trapper. He doesn't give a shit. He plays trapper at rank 1 in 4Ks. Nasty.
But yeah, I think those add-ons are pretty decent, right? Like, I mean, they're pretty straightforward. I don't even know if there's like anything to talk about, right? They're just they make them stealthier and they work pretty well.
They open up a lot more spots.
I
For
think
sure.
they're also kind of map reliant, because I think they're really good on maps like Macmillan and Colwyn Farm. I think those maps like kind of let the traps blend in more, but maps like Larise kind of actually make the traps worse and more visible.
Yeah.
I think that's a rare case, but yeah, if you place
Yeah,
the
it's
trap
more-
in the grass, you just won't see it. So it can increase the time it takes for someone to disarm the trap. And if you rely on seeing the bear trap to disarm it, then you're gonna have a bad time with those add-ons. So they're definitely I don't know if they're insanely nasty, but they're definitely a huge help.
They can be nasty, yeah. Alright. And then we have... Actually, not the last add-ons. We have one more kind of add-on. We have in the rare... No, I'm sorry. Uncommon rarity, we have the Trapper Bag, which allows you to start with 1 extra bear trap. So you have 2, and you can carry up to 2 instead of 1. And then we have the Stitched Bag, which starts with 2 bear traps. So you have 3 bear traps, and you can carry up to 3 bear traps. You can also combine these to have 4 bear traps, but you know.
I like these add-ons. They're cool.
Yeah. I
Cool.
think universally they're agreed to be the best trapper add-ons just because they're
yeah.
probably the best for time efficiency.
Yep, I could agree. I've heard a lot of people say that they want to see the trapper have like a default trapper bag where you can carry up to 2 at a time. I think that'd be kind of interesting. I don't really know if it's a good idea. I haven't really thought about it a whole lot, but I think it would be interesting. And I do think they are one of the best add-ons, so I use them every chance I get.
I think maybe not start with 2, but like being able to carry 2.
Yeah, even that. Because
Go
I'll-
on.
I was just gonna say, like it's kind of like we said earlier, you know, like just that would fix a bunch of dumb little things, like, you know, when there's a trap down and you already have a trap in your hand and you want to like just place that trap where it is, you know, you
Uh-huh.
can't even pick it up until you set your
Yeah.
trap. Like it would fix that, you know.
Having to walk back and forth between points of the map, like if you've got 3 generators on the east end of the map, but all your bear traps are on the west end of the map, having to place one, walk over, grab one, place another one, walk over, grab one, that's so obnoxious.
Hmm.
It's such a huge time waste. There should definitely be some mechanics to make carrying bear traps in that kind of scenario easier, or I don't know. I think Trapper could use a redesign.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, like the traps are hard to use because of that. Yeah, because of I think that's probably the biggest issue is the walking across the map, walking back. Like it takes so long just to set up your ability, you know.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, any last words for these add-ons, or I like them. That's all I can say
Okay.
about them. Good add-ons.
Yeah, same.
All right. Last add-on: How the Mighty Have Fallen, Honing Stone and Diamond Stone.
God.
Honing Stone, very rare add-on. 50% chance to inflict dying state upon the trapped victim. RNG, the add-on.
Nice.
And then we have Diamond Stone, inflicts dying state upon the trapped victim. For anyone that doesn't know why I just said How the Mighty Have Fallen, Honing Stone used to be Diamond Stone, but then they changed it so Honing Stone has only 50% chance, and Diamond Stone, yeah, Diamond Stone became an ultra rare add-on and is basically what Honing Stone used to be.
I think it comes back to the whole one-shot mechanic just not being fun. I don't like the idea of how Honing Stone or Diamond Stone work right now. Especially, dude, Honing Stone RNG to get out of the bear trap. Okay, I don't think that's a fun game to sound at all. As far as for effectiveness, Diamond Stone is pretty good.
I think it would have been completely fine to just make Honing Stone ultra rare.
I mean, that wouldn't really do too much, right? I mean, iridescent heads.
Yeah, it's just
still common as
to be
shit.
fair though,
you get them all the time and it wouldn't be fun.
Honestly, when I put points in my Trapper, I rarely see Diamond Stones, even though he's prestige 3.
Really, I see them all the time. Honestly,
Really? I never
Bad
see
luck.
Diamond Stones. It's only in my Trapper though. I have like 50
I usually
iridescent
get,
heads on maybe.
A couple per bloodweb.
Huh. Maybe I should like... It's been a long time since I've put points into my Trapper. Oh well. Alright. Those were the add-ons. There's not really much to talk about anymore about Trapper except... Alright, let's go. Best Best customizables for Trapper.
Chuckles.
The Iron Chuckles is better than normal Chuckles now.
No.
I think.
Rogi? Hello, Rogi? Please?
Rogi looks sick. dude.
Rogi's okay.
Rogi's. I don't like Rogi.
Can I just say that I think Legacy looks so bad on Trapper? Like, Trappers with full Legacy just look awful.
The Legacy
mean-
in general right now is not in
You.
a good place.
Yeah, I honestly I hate all Legacy. I don't really use Legacy on anybody. I think the Blood looks so much better, especially on killers. Like I think
Oh,
Blood
yeah.
looks a million times
I
better.
like Legacy really, but that's about
Disco
it.
Ball Killer, man.
Yeah.
I honestly think the All Hallows eyes look sick on Trapper. I run them.
Hmm.
Those are
I like
the
clean
glowing
stuff, man.
Halloween eyes.
I like
Yeah,
the
man,
clean
shut-
melee weapons. Just the default stock.
I think
Nobody
the P3
uses
body,
them, but they look nice.
P3 body with Chuckles. It's pretty legit.
I mean, I run the
Yeah.
P3 body, the All Hallows eyes, and the Legacy weapon. I don't know, it looks shiny.
You do you, man.
Shiny. I hate the pain fill. It looks so bad. It's like the
Pains-
normal.
Oh.
It's like-
yeah, they just
Like, what the fuck is that?
they duct tape random shit they found in Auto Haven to their weapons.
Fucking the bolo machete looks sick. I like the bolo machete. It's cool. It's not great, but
Yeah,
it's cool.
Decent.
Pretty nice. Dude, the fucking... Oh god, what it's called? The Iron Man? The fucking train face?
Ugh. Tunnel me.
Oh man, I always call it the train because when I actually do see a Iron Man chapter, it's always like, he tunnels.
You know the guys rocking Iron Grass Vegetation, Highway to the Basement.
Always
Yeah.
gotta know it, dude. Always.
He's gonna...
That's
No,
not-
yep.
Isn't it like the fucking... the Rogi mask?
No,
Stereotype.
Rogi's step to the side of your hook and farm you off.
Deer Stalker.
Yeah, boy. Rogi mask actually was a community-made weapon.
Yeah.
Just beat people over the head with his mask.
It's a shame.
So many good community stuff out there. Alright. Trapper. Chuckles. That was his beta name. Voiced by Phil. Special shout
Are
out
we
to
out
my
of
boy
topics?
Phil.
Have we reached the end of
Oh,
the...
we are not out of topics. We still have our special topic, which is
Special topic.
special topic, friends. We have lay ranking system. Also including a little subtopic, the victory cube for
Ooh.
killers and the upcoming victory cube for survivors, which we don't know what they will do yet, but we can discuss that. All right, I'm gonna give Tofu the honors here. Sorry, Phil.
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, do it. No, go.
You're
Give us
passionate about
the
this.
give us the load now.
All right,
Hit
so all right, so in my personal opinion, okay, the victory cube has been released, okay, and just to touch base on what it is, the old rank system was based off of blood points and blood points only, and basically you had to get a certain amount of blood points in different categories to pip up, and you could pip without killing a single person, which I think might have been a slight flaw because it made farming killers, and I feel like they might have made the victory cube to avoid farming killers, which is understandable, but at the same time, okay, the new killer pip system, the victory cube, is based around kills and hooks and nothing else. Nothing else at all affects your leveling up. It's just hooks and kills. I think it leads a lot of newer killers, especially. I mean, there's some like killers who are playing a long time who just use it as an excuse, but I think a lot of newer killers kind of fall back into like using like the cheapest strategies possible to get kills, and it leads to a lot of like the kind of killers who will finally catch a guy after 3 gens get done, and then they finally caught him. They feel like they have to secure the kill for the sake of their pip because for some reason people can't have fun without pipping. Everyone wants to win, even though the ranking system means nothing. They still want to win, which is semi understandable. But so they'll throw them on the hook and then they'll never leave the area. And then when the person gets unhooked, they'll tunnel them down. They'll ignore every other person, even if they're body blocking. They'll walk right past them and chase down the guy who got unhooked and throw him back on the hook just so they can secure the kill, because that's what they feel like they need to do to pip. Like, they try to just do the cheapest, most boring strategies, and because that's how they feel like they have to play to, like, quote unquote win in the new system. And I feel like it's just kind of creating a really bad mindset, and that's not like. Sure, that might get them wins in this new system, but first off, that doesn't make them a better killer, because, I mean, we have good killer mains here, too. Like, Ryudy, Flare, you guys are great killers. I mean, even Atro, I've seen you play killer. You're really good, too. And we all know that that's not, like, the most effective. Like, you want to create map pressure. You want to keep them off gens. If you want to, like, get 4 kills, the most efficient way to do it is by creating map pressure, Like, I'm not saying you always have to hook, like you always have to, like, throw a guy on a hook and run across the map, you don't always have to do that. But, like, at the same time, if you throw a guy on a hook and there's no one nearby and you just stick around anyway because you're afraid to lose a kill, you're not going to be getting any better at the game. You have to get better at pressuring, and it's really pushing people into bad mindsets about the game, and it's also ruining the game for survivors too. Like, I can't even play Survivor anymore because every game turns into the first guy who gets downed is basically dead no matter what you do. Like, you could try to pull them off with borrowed time, but then they still get tunneled to death and there's no chance of helping them. And it turns into just doing generators and leaving, which is, isn't fun for me or for anybody, I don't feel like. So I'll shut up now and let you guys talk for a little bit, because I could probably go on all day about this.
No, I totally agree with it's really stunts their growth as a killer. You basically that they set this goal of 2 kills and a hook, and that's enough. That's a win. And they don't really learn to be a better killer and progress past that.
Exactly. I feel like it really stunts the growth, and it's a real shame, And I also want to agree. This is something that Flair kind of brought up, I think, in the last podcast, is that I think the most fun of this game is, like, the interactions, like the amount of interactions with, like, the killer and the survivors and stuff. I think the old blood point system, although I do think that it was low, like, it was super easy to pip, which I think was a problem, it needed to be addressed. But at the same time, if you need blood points, it definitely gives you incentive to interact. Like, sitting around camping a hook does not give you any points. It doesn't make you interact. Where, like, to get blood points, you have to go interact with the survivors, which is fun for both sides. Like, there needs to be more killer survivor interactions. And I feel like a system that's revolved around blood points gives you incentive to want to go interact with people rather than just stand there and watch somebody die, because that's what gets you points. Like people die and get you points, so they're just gonna sit there and watch them die as opposed to going out and getting blood points.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. The new system encourages bad behavior, but it's not
fun behavior.
Yeah, unfun. That's a better way to say it. I think it's just a symptom of the state of Dead by Daylight right now being kind of it's bad. If camping wasn't as rewarding, people wouldn't do it as much. But camping is incredibly rewarding right now as far as killing the person on the hook is concerned. So when you want to go for kills, you camp. And I think that the new system isn't necessarily the worst system, but the time of the game that it was implemented. Like, if you implemented this system a long time ago, it wouldn't be as much of a problem. When you could fake the unhook, or when you could have a buddy tank for you, and then the dude could start moving when he got unhooked. I don't think it would be nearly as bad. And while I definitely think it needs to be improved, I think it just kind of clearly demonstrates how camping is so much of a problem right now. If the killer sits in front of the hook, you can't do anything. If you unhook without borrowed time, you just sits the person back down. And then outside of being around the hook, because 2-minute hook timers, you don't have too much pressure if you're sitting in front of the hook unless people come up to you, right? But you have absolutely no pressure anywhere else on the map. With all the second chance perks, with how safe pallet drops are right now, just through extension, the killer really doesn't have much power anywhere else in front of the hook, and being in front of the hook is super rewarding. What else is the killer going to do if he's trying to get kills?
Yeah, like I totally understand why people do it. Don't get me wrong. Like I understand the mentality that it creates. As to why they do it. It's not like I don't know. Like I understand like what the, and honestly, I think another separate issue altogether, which I don't really know if I want to delve into right now, but I think another issue altogether is that generators themselves are super fucking boring, like insanely boring. Holding M1 for 80 seconds at a generator and just doing like skill checks here and there. Like so most survivors, they'll see somebody getting camped and they don't want to go do they know in their head that okay, the counterplay to this is to go do generators to punish them, but they don't want to do it. They're like, that's not fun. I'm not going to go do that. So then they end up going for crazy saves and sometimes like feeding the killer or whatever.
Yeah,
and then maybe and then the camper ends up like doing well camping, even though it's a bad strategy. It's just because the survivors wanted to have fun and didn't want to just go do generators, they end up getting rewarded. So they're basically feeding off of the survivors just wanting to have a good time, and then it ends up just getting destroyed because of the camper. And I just think it all around leads to just terribleness. And it honestly like worries me because I feel passionately about Dead by Daylight and I want it to be successful. Like it worries me. I know a lot of people have quit the game. I've talked to a lot of people. I myself, like I said, I can't even play Survivor much anymore. I was enjoying Survivor a lot, but I can't even really do it anymore. I mean, I do still enjoy Killer, so I mean, I'm fine, but like I don't know, it does worry me a little about like the future of the game.
There's like a lot less killers who also even see that kind of in myself sometimes. I used to be really willing to meme around with survivors. I don't enjoy farming, I think that's boring, but like survivors who would just drop a toolbox in front of me and start nodding their head out, let them go.
Yeah, I used to be a fan of that, and now you can't really afford to.
Yeah.
There's so many second chance perks, and you just lose so much time by kind of memeing around with them.
Can I also say, like, okay, this is kind of another touchy subject, but like, okay, you know how there's still like borderline infinites in the map, like Ironworks and then the shop. It seems like survivors have been way less like. But okay, like if I was to jump back in time 3 months, most people like would avoid those windows just out of like respect. They just wouldn't abuse them as much as possible. I don't know what's happened lately, but it feels like every game that I play on those maps, everyone just runs to those windows. Like it's weird, like
because they're effective.
Yeah. I think it's because of like first off bloodlust and second off like all the camping. I feel like people are now falling back to like whatever they can. It's just creating like I feel like 3 months ago this game was so much more fun. Like the survivors didn't like fall back to cheap stuff like that, like out of respect. Like out of having more fun, they would not. Killers would also not camp out of having for the respect of more fun. And it seemed like it was more fun all around. Now it just seems like it's like dirty strategies from both sides. Like camping and tunneling, and then survivors using these like super strong windows, and everybody just being like, "Oh well, it's our job to kill. It's our job to survive." And like it's just not like it is, but it's less fun all around. Like I don't.
You used to be able to kind of stuff. Maybe. This definitely ties into the ranking system. It's the same mindset. The new killer ranking system encourages killers to kill. It revolves around killers killing, and I think that's a good thing. But how killing works in Dead by Daylight right now, I don't think that works. I don't think that's a good thing at all.
How killing works right now, they might as well rename the killers to sacrificers.
All right.
Is
that a step up from Bloodpoint Pinatas?
Anyways, I have a. Well, I'll let you talk, but I have a vague idea about, like, a general idea of how to like make it better. But I'll let you guys say what you want to say first. But I kind of want to run it by you guys and see how you. Yeah, I want to run it by you guys and see how you feel about it after you guys are done talking.
It ties into the new matchmaking system where you used to be able to play against people you knew or people on a region that were familiar with playing with other people on that region, and you could kind of develop community rules or a certain way to play, have respect for the people in your game, etc. But with the new matchmaking, you don't have really a say over who you're being matched with. Sometimes it feels like you're matched with people just all over the world. You have no control in who you're going to be playing against. I rarely ever see familiar faces when I play Dead by Daylight now.
I miss that so
just
much.
with how the new matchmaking works. It's
Toronto.
You can't.
Dude, Toronto is where all the cool chill kids would hang out.
With survivors, with how the game is designed right now, you can't afford to take risks because of bloodlust. So if I want to avoid the killer, I'm going to do it in the most optimal way possible. I'm going to try to force him to break line of sight or lose his stacks, and if that means vaulting the Ironworks window, so be it. Whereas before, you could loot pallets, you could vault windows, do whatever. You kind of have to go with the more optimal plays now. That's what bloodlust forces. Before, one of the things you could do was you could vault a window, break a pallet, and then run for distance. But with bloodlust, the killer covers that distance so fast, it's not an option you can look into. Bloodlust really limits the options that you have. So yeah, whereas you're not willing to meme around with survivors because they have so much second chance perks, it's hard to keep up with it's hard to keep up. The same with survivors and bloodlust.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it's a.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I was just gonna say I think it's a mix of bloodlust, making it pretty much impossible to kite for a long amount of time. Like it basically puts you on like a time period, and if you manage to play well for 45 seconds, you get punished because the killer gets fucking bozo amounts of speed.
Well, that's
so
you're not playing well by design. That's what they want.
Yeah, but
if you're gonna chase for 45 seconds, that's too long.
Yeah, I know.
You should have crouched around those.
Makes it more linear, They force that play style of having to lose the killer. Instead of making it an option or encouraging stealth, they just make the other play style not viable, and that limits how the game plays.
Yep, and I think as it is right now too, a big issue with that is I think good killers are kind of hard to lose. Like I'm not saying it's not possible, but I think it's pretty difficult to lose a killer who knows what he's doing. Who
knows the maps too.
Yeah, especially if they already have bloodlust 1 or 2 and they're already moving faster. It makes it harder to break line of sight, and makes it harder to
ties into the fact that even though scratch marks are pretty broken right now, decent to good killers probably won't lose you.
Yeah, exactly. They'll see where the scratch marks end. They'll use their brain and just think about where you would go, and they're already fast because of bloodlust. They could look around and find you. It's really hard, Even quick and quiet locker plays don't work. A good killer will be like, oh shit, he's not here. Check the locker, bam. It's hard. It's very hard. Sure, lower rank killers you could lose all day, but I mean any killer who knows the basics of tracking and has played the game for a little while is probably going to be able to find you. And I think that's kind of I think the devs kind of have the wrong mentality when it comes to that. I feel like the devs think it's easier to lose killers than it is, And I don't know. I think that's where the whole thing of bloodlust comes in, where they're just like, oh well, if you're a good survivor, you should be able to lose the killer, and if you don't, you should be punished, And I don't know. I think what Flair said, puts into a very one-dimensional game, and even still, that one dimension is harder shit to do.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Inconsistent.
Exactly.
I think you've got the 15 seconds at the beginning of the chase before they have bloodlust to try to lose the killer. Drop a pallet, vault a window, lock or whatever, and then after that, you're just not getting away. And if you've been hitting, you got those blood marks. Yeah, good fucking luck, hey.
Yeah, right.
So you've got you basically have to try to drop the killer immediately, and you have to hide from him all the time, and it's not interactive. It really takes away from the game.
Yeah, and honestly,
or you pallet loop.
Yeah, and honestly, as a killer, I wouldn't want to play a game like that either. As a killer,
hell no.
Yeah, that's boring.
I've routinely watched newer killers that are, people that are new to the game playing killer, streaming for the first or second time or whatever, and they'll play a game, and maybe there's one survivor left, and they can't find him because he's hiding. They just say, "This is boring as hell. I don't want to play this." I've seen people disconnect over that sort of thing. So hide and seek isn't the direction the game should take because, once again, no interaction is boring, even to the newer players.
I am so scared that they will enforce stealth play and this will just become hide and seek.
Yep, that'll completely. I'll probably quit, honestly.
That'll be the breaking point for me.
Yeah, that's the worst thing for me, honestly. I can't.
I just 2 days ago, I disconnected from a game as killer because I couldn't find anyone for 3+ minutes. Because they were
it just feels terrible.
It was just a squad of P3 Claudettes on Shelter Woods with Darkest Moonlight. I had whispers and I couldn't find them. It was just you know what? Fuck this. I'm just gonna go play a new match. This is boring. I don't want to play this.
You think they'd figure it out with Swamp being the most universally hated map by killers? That maybe hide and seek isn't the direction to take the game, right? How many people?
Or the Left 4 Dead shirt.
To be fair, the Left 4 Dead shirt isn't a problem on any other survivor.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
It was so
A lot of people had
stupid.
issues.
Invisible
people had
survivors.
You know
A lot
that
of
on the
people
Myers
did that.
house, that little, like, when you jump out from the back porch from the second
Mhm.
story, there's like that little corner with that brush where you cannot see a Claudette or a Jake that has their back turned to you.
Kind of know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I usually walk through it and feel if I get body blocked is what I do. If I'm sure.
Or you just hear
Fucking
them.
Haddonfield in general is so. No.
I don't like Haddonfield. No.
Yeah, same.
They should, like. I don't know, man. I think they need to do. Since we're talking about maps that people like and don't like, they already made a survey about what killer should be reworked next. Like, just make a survey about which maps people like the most. Like, make people tick if they're a killer or survivor player, and then ask them which maps they like the most, or which map they hate the most, and then just look at that. I think that's gonna be pretty clear evidence.
Yeah,
what they need to work around.
Listening to the community on what to add, what to remove might not be the best idea, but
Oh, yeah,
if
I
someone
definitely-
dislikes
see what you mean.
something, then investigate. Try to figure out
Yeah,
what it
that's
is.
what I mean.
So if a killer's complaining about pallet looping and they're like, I just fucking hate pallets, maybe instead of adding bloodlust so you can hit people off of pallets, maybe you need to look at maybe there's another issue here. Maybe kicking pallets isn't rewarding enough. It takes too long. Instead of removing, or with infinites, they added the window blocker to counter infinites, and they're not infinite anymore, but they're still huge fucking time sinks. And it's not fun running the same window around, waiting fucking 30 seconds for bloodlust to kick in to hit someone. So instead of like listening directly to what people are saying, maybe use that feedback and then try to come up with a solution that fixes the root of the problem instead of band-aids.
I honestly like the whole. I dislike pallet looping, but I don't dislike pallet looping because of pallet looping. I dislike it because of how stale it is, and like you're not gonna catch them anyways because of stuff like pallet vacuum and tiny hitboxes and everything.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, I don't dislike pallet looping itself. I just like the things that make pallet looping so strong.
I think a lot of the tiles have issues with making certain pallets too safe.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say that too.
Rather
yeah.
than, like fixing the tiles and making them, more
Yeah.
unsafe, they'd, bloodlust.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's
And now you
weird.
can't even go back and fix it because bloodlust would just make it impossible to play on.
Yeah, they'd have to remove bloodlust as well. Yeah, it's
They
weird
can't do
too
that right
because
which is like
it's just
another
weird
issue.
too because they even have changed some tiles. Like for instance, the old jungle gyms. They've changed them like what 2 times. They've changed the 4 walls recently. Like they do change tiles. So like it clearly is something that can be done and hopefully not even that hard. So why can't they just change the tiles of the pallets, and make them slightly bigger, like make them slightly less safe? I think that's all they'd have to do. I don't even think it would be that hard of a change. I mean, I don't know anything about coding, but I don't think it would be that hard.
Like, that one, it's like the double pallet setup, and then there's, at least on Autohaven, it's like the 2 trucks. That pallet
Oh
sucks.
yeah, that one's.
Because there's also like a line of sight blocker, which makes it even worse.
And also the T pallet, that's a good pallet to play a survivor on.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like we kind of already went past that topic with ranking up and how the conditions to
Oh
pet.
yeah,
yeah.
I was gonna make a suggestion, and we kind
I
of.
wanted to make a suggestion too. I feel like alright, I'm not gonna say this is the perfect fix, this is the best change they could make, but I would like them to at least try a PTR where the condition to pip is chasing and the condition to double pip is killing. Like, I don't 4King, not like killing, like if you kill one person you double pip. Like 4King is right now, as it is right now, if you 4K you get a double pip guaranteed. But like to get a pip, you should like have a mix of hooking, sacrificing, and chasing people, hitting people, downing people.
I
don't think just chasing.
Yeah,
I mean by chasing, I mean like chasing, hitting, downing.
Downing, maybe, yeah, sure.
I think we can all agree that the hook scenario with camping and body blocking the hook and being able to hit people after being unhooked is a problem anyways, right? Like that's something that needs to
Yeah.
be changed. So instead of changing, I think leave the rank system alone for right now and just improve the game. If you were, because you need to do these things anyways. You need to change how pallets function. You need to change the unhook scenario. If you change all these things and leave the rank system as it is right now, and it's still a problem, okay, sure, go back and revise it. But I don't think it's when you have to fix these problems anyways, these problems which I believe cause the rank system issue, I don't think it's worth the time to try to redesign the rank system when all these problems still exist.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I kind of see where you're coming from.
I can agree on that.
Okay, I feel like I have like a pretty easy solution though that probably wouldn't even be that hard for them to implement because it's sort of just going back.
That's
Like
Just reverting it.
no, not entire. Sort of. I would like to see it go back to being blood point based. You know, like around blood points. And then I would also like to see it be progressively harder as you rank up. Like I think it's silly to me that getting from rank 20 to rank 19 takes the same amount of like points or whatever as getting from rank 2 to rank 1. Like
Yeah.
it's so odd to me that it doesn't get harder as you go. Like so maybe make it something like, you know, from rank 20 to rank 15, it takes like 10k to pip, 7k to safety pip, you know. That way it's easy on new players. They don't feel like super stressed to rank up. But then maybe once you hit rank 15, it starts taking, I don't know, 12k to pip, 10k to safety pip. And then, you know, rank 10 to rank 5. Yeah, I don't know these numbers might not be like exact for balance because I'd have to kind of have to play test it. But, you know, like maybe like 15k and then 12k to safety pip, and then from rank 5 to rank 1, maybe like 18k to pip, 15k to safety pip or something. You know, just so it's actually hard to get the rank 1, and also because if you need like 18 or 20k points to pip, there's no way in fuck you're doing that with camping. You know what I mean? Like you can't. It would definitely encourage people to get out there and do shit because there's no way you can get rank 1.
I can confidently say that I average around 22 to 25k as a killer.
Yeah, same.
I'm around 25, 29k.
Yeah, same. Like even on games where I don't get kills. But that's also another thing I wanted to address though, is because I feel like the only thing that would cause is like people farming. But I figure maybe like if you include like maybe like a 1 kill stipulation or something, you know, like maybe you need like 1 kill at the very least to get the pip as well. I don't know if that's really a good idea, but I feel like they would have to do something to stop people from just being farming killers, you know, because I feel like that would be the only real issue to that is, you know, the farming killers. But I don't really think that would be an issue either. Like maybe make it so that you need at least 1 kill to also get the pip, and if not, you know, maybe just safety.
I feel like this might be like really out of nowhere. I feel like some of the issues in this game are also like in terms of ranking up and fun are also because I feel like the devs really like their whole lore thing where you have as a killer to please the entity to survive people. I think if they'd change the rule to make it so the entity doesn't get its high from sacrifices, it all like gets off of the killer like chasing people around and smacking them.
Well, that's how it used to be, right? Because I mean, that's what it was. It was all about like terrorizing them. It wasn't specifically killing them. It was just terrorizing them. You know?
Yeah.
Like, you could kill nobody and still please the entity because you just terrorized the shit out of them the whole time they were in there. You know?
Yeah. And like at the end of the day, isn't it the lore like that the entity feeds on their hope?
Kind of like how the devs feeding on our hope for this game to get better.
Hey, finger guns.
So.
Welp.
That's the podcast we did it.
We did it. We pleased the entity that is this community.
Go ahead.
All right. Closing thoughts. Anything else?
I really don't have nothing, honestly.
Yeah.
All right.
Fix the game. If you can press a button and revert the rank system for now, that'd be better. Sure, do it. But if it takes time, just spend that time fixing your game first.
Stop hard-coding perks and shout out to my boy Phil.
You go, Phil. You keep voicing those killers.
I still can't get out the fact that he voiced like all of the original killers compared to how different each of them sounds.
Technology.
I mean, they changed some of the sounds too, right? Like, remember the original stun sounds, like
Yeah.
compared to what
They
it is now?
changed the hag stun sound. Did anyone notice that? Because she used to go like
Nobody plays hag.
and now she just goes.
No, I didn't notice that.
Well, now you know.
Now you know.
You're welcome from the demonstration too.
Yeah, that's what I really appreciated more than anything.
All right. Hey, 1 minute 25. 1 hour 25 minutes, man.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think it was a pretty good podcast, though. So thank you. Thank you for having
All
me
right.
again.
Ending, closing thoughts. Tofu streams. If Larry used to stream, he might stream again. And I think you stream. I saw you with a Twitch thread once.
Yeah, I do sometimes.
Hell yeah. All right. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Not really tuning in, but like clicking on this on YouTube. So see you next time.